The night that changed everything began like any other. I arrived home earlier than usual, eager to surprise my wife Emily. The kids were at a friend's house for a sleepover, and I had picked up her favorite takeout on the way home. I imagined a quiet, romantic evening, just the two of us, something we hadn't had in a long time, but as I walked through the front door, the scene that greeted me was far from romantic. The house was unusually quiet, the kind of quiet that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I called out her name, but there was no response. My steps echoed on the hardwood floors as I made my way to the living room. That's when I saw them. Emily, my wife of 15 years, was wrapped in the arms of a stranger. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't notice me standing there, my heart pounding in my chest, the takeout bag slipping from my grasp. For a moment I was frozen, unable to process the sight before me. Emily had always been the epitome of loyalty and love, or so I had believed. Seeing her with another man was like a punch to the gut. I stumbled backward, desperate to escape the betrayal unfolding in front of me. I slipped out the door as quietly as I had come in, my mind racing. Sitting in my car, I tried to make sense of what I had just witnessed. My initial shock turned to anger, and then to suspicion. How long had this been going on? Who was that man? Questions swirled in my mind, each more painful than the last. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Over the next few days I became a detective in my own home. I started to notice the little things I had previously ignored, the late-night phone calls, the unexplained absences, the expensive new clothes and jewelry that she couldn't possibly afford on her salary. Emily had always been good at hiding things, but now I was looking for the cracks in her facade. My suspicions were confirmed when I finally got my hands on her phone. While she was in the shower, I unlocked it, and found a string of messages between her and a man named James. They didn't just talk about their rendezvous, they talked about money, gifts, and their future together. It was clear that this wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown affair, built on deceit and greed. The discovery was a knife to my heart. Emily wasn't just cheating on me. She was using these affairs to fund a lifestyle that I could never provide. Our vacations, her luxurious wardrobe, even some of the household expenses were all paid for by the men she was seeing. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had built a life with, was a stranger to me now. As the days turned into weeks, my heartbreak turned into a cold resolve. I couldn't let her betrayal go unanswered. I began to plot my revenge, careful not to tip her off to my plans. I moved our joint savings into a personal account and started gathering evidence of her infidelity. I met with a lawyer to discuss my options, ensuring that when the time came I would be ready. One evening I finally confronted her. Armed with the texts, photos, and bank statements, I laid it all out before her. She tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was irrefutable. I watched as her face crumbled, the mask of innocence slipping away. She begged for forgiveness, but I was beyond that now. I was focused on protecting my children and rebuilding my life. I told our kids the truth, as painful as it was. They deserved to know why their world was falling apart. We moved out of the house and started fresh in a new city. Emily was left to face the consequences of her actions alone, the life she had built on lies crumbling around her. As I closed the door on that chapter of my life, I felt a sense of relief. The future was uncertain, but at least it was free from deceit. My children and I had a long road ahead, but we were moving forward one step at a time, leaving the betrayal behind us. In the days following my shocking discovery, I found myself slipping into a routine that was as foreign as it was necessary. Each morning I would kiss Emily goodbye as if nothing had changed, then spend my workday in a fog of disbelief and fury. By evening, I was a different man, transformed into a silent observer, cataloging every clue that might unravel the extent of her betrayal. Emily, unaware of my internal turmoil, continued her charade. She still greeted me with a smile, asked about my day, and shared anecdotes about our children. But now, every gesture, every word felt like an assault. I watched her more closely than ever, noticing how often she checked her phone, how she would disappear for long stretches under the guise of running errands. Each action added another layer to the growing pile of evidence. One evening, after tucking the kids into bed, I waited for Emily to fall asleep. Her phone, left charging on the nightstand, was my gateway to the truth. With trembling hands I navigated through her messages, emails, and even social media accounts. What I found made my blood boil. There were not just messages from James but from 2 other men as well, each conversation more damning than the last. James was the main culprit. Their exchanges were filled with declarations of love and plans for a future that didn't include me. He had been financing her lavish lifestyle for years, from expensive jewelry to luxury vacations. It seemed like Emily had perfected the art of balancing multiple lives, each funded by the men she ensnared. But James wasn't alone. There was also a businessman named Mark and a younger man, a personal trainer named Alex. Both were equally complicit in her deceit, showering her with gifts and money. Emily had managed to create a web of lies so intricate that it was a wonder it hadn't collapsed sooner. My next step was to gather physical evidence. I took photos of her messages, saved screenshots of her emails, and downloaded any incriminating documents I could find. Every night, after she had fallen asleep, I would sneak down to the basement where I kept a growing file of everything I had discovered. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. As the weeks went by, my dual life took its toll. At work I was distracted, my mind constantly drifting back to the web of deceit at home. I started skipping social events and avoiding friends, unable to face the world while my personal life was in shambles. The only people who mattered were my children. Their innocence and unawareness of the storm brewing around them gave me the strength to continue. Emily remained oblivious to my actions, wrapped up in her lies. I began to notice the signs of her double life more clearly. The new dress that appeared without explanation, the unexplained deposits in our joint account, and the frequent urgent calls from work. Each detail painted a clearer picture of her infidelity. One afternoon, while Emily was out, I decided to confront James directly. I tracked him down through social media and discovered that he ran a high-end car dealership. I drove there, my mind racing with anger and anticipation. Confronting him face to face was a risk, but I needed to see the man who had played such a significant role in destroying my family. When I arrived at the dealership, I asked to speak with James privately. He was a tall, confident man, exuding the kind of charisma that made it easy to see why Emily was drawn to him. I introduced myself and watched as his expression shifted from confusion to realization and then to fear. I laid out everything I knew, sparing no details. James tried to justify their relationship, claiming that Emily had painted me as a distant and uncaring husband. His attempts to shift the blame only fueled my anger. I left him with a warning. If he ever contacted my wife again, I would ensure that his professional and personal life would suffer the consequences. Back at home, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. Confronting James had been a small victory, but it was only the beginning. My focus now was on the legal aspects of the situation. I met with my lawyer again, presenting the evidence I had gathered. He assured me that we had a strong case for divorce, one that would leave Emily with nothing. As I prepared for the final confrontation, I found solace in the knowledge that justice would be served. Emily's web of lies was about to collapse, and I would ensure that she felt the full weight of her betrayal. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was ready to face them head-on, determined to protect my children and rebuild our lives from the ashes of her deceit. The day of reckoning finally arrived. After weeks of meticulous planning and countless sleepless nights, I was ready to confront Emily and expose the truth. I knew this would be one of the most difficult moments of my life, but it was a necessary step towards reclaiming my dignity and securing a future for my children. I chose a Saturday morning, knowing that the kids were at a soccer practice and wouldn't be home for a few hours. This gave me the time and privacy I needed for what was about to unfold. I had everything prepared, the evidence neatly organized in a folder, the lawyer on standby, and the resolve to see this through no matter how painful it might be. Emily was in the kitchen, making coffee, when I walked in. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Emily, we need to talk," I said, my voice colder than I intended. She turned to me with a puzzled look. "Sure, Tom, what's going on?" Without a word, I handed her the folder. She opened it, her expression shifting from confusion to shock as she flipped through the pages. Messages from James, Mark, and Alex. Bank statements showing unexplained deposits, photos of her with each of them. Her face paled, and she dropped the folder on the counter. Tom, I can explain, she stammered, her eyes wide with fear. Explain, I said, my voice rising. Explain how you've been lying to me for years? How you've used other men to fund our life? How you've betrayed our family? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I did it for us, Tom, she pleaded. I wanted to give us a better life, to provide for the kids in ways we couldn't afford. Her words felt like a mockery. You did it for us? I spat back. You did it for yourself. For the money, the gifts, the thrill. Don't pretend this was about our family. Emily sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt you or the kids. It's too late for apologies, I said, my voice steady now. I've already spoken to a lawyer. We're getting a divorce, Emily. I'm taking the kids and you'll be lucky if you get anything after what you've done. Her head shot up, panic replacing the sorrow. No, Tom, please, we can work through this, I can change. I'll do whatever it takes. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. You had your chance, Emily. Now you have to live with the consequences of your actions. The rest of the conversation was a blur of accusations and denials. Her desperate attempts to salvage our marriage clashing with my unwavering resolve. Finally, I walked out, leaving her sobbing at the kitchen table. The next few days were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. I sat down with our children, explaining the situation in terms they could understand. It broke my heart to see their confusion and pain, but I knew that honesty was the best path forward. Emily moved out shortly after, and the house felt both emptier and more peaceful without her presence. The kids and I began to settle into a new routine, one marked by honesty and healing. They asked questions about their mother, and I answered as truthfully as I could without burdening them with the full weight of her betrayal. In the midst of this turmoil, I reached out to James, Mark, and Alex one last time. I sent them a simple message. She's out of our lives now. Leave us alone, or face the consequences. None of them responded, and I hoped it meant they understood the seriousness of my warning. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. With the mountain of evidence I had gathered, the court ruled in my favor. I was granted full custody of the children, and Emily was left with only a fraction of what she once had. The judge's verdict was a bittersweet victory, a reminder of the life we had lost but also a beacon of hope for the future. As Emily's deceit unraveled, so did my sense of loss and betrayal. Each day brought a new sense of clarity and strength. I began to see a future beyond the pain, one where my children and I could rebuild our lives free from the shadows of Emily's lies. In those quiet moments after the dust settled, I found solace in the resilience of my children and the support of close friends. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. We were moving forward step by step, leaving the past behind and embracing the promise of a new beginning. The days following Emily's departure were filled with a strange mix of relief and sadness. The house, once filled with tension and deceit, now seemed like a blank slate. The kids and I had a chance to start over, but the scars of the past lingered. My primary focus was to create a stable, loving environment for them, one where they could begin to heal. Our new routine began to take shape. Mornings were spent preparing breakfast together, a simple act that brought us closer. I drove them to school, cherishing these moments of normalcy. In the afternoons we tackled homework at the kitchen table, and in the evenings we shared dinner and stories about our day. These small rituals helped us rebuild our sense of family. One Saturday I decided it was time to take a break from our routine. I surprised the kids with a trip to the nearby amusement park. Their eyes lit up with excitement, a sight that warmed my heart. As we rode the roller coasters and played carnival games, I saw glimpses of their old, carefree selves. It was a day of laughter and joy, a much-needed reprieve from the turmoil of the past few months. Back at home, I started to make changes to the house. I wanted to remove the reminders of Emily's betrayal and create a space that reflected our new beginning. I repainted the walls, replaced old furniture, and hung new photos of the kids and me. It was therapeutic, each brushstroke and nail a step towards reclaiming our home. As the weeks turned into months, I noticed a shift in my own mindset. The anger and betrayal I had felt began to fade, replaced by a sense of determination. I was no longer a victim of Emily's deceit. I was a father, dedicated to providing a stable and loving environment for my children. One evening, while sorting through old boxes in the attic, I found our wedding album. I hesitated before opening it, unsure if I was ready to confront those memories. But as I flipped through the pages, I realized that the man in those photos, full of hope and love, was still a part of me. The memories of our happy times were tainted by her betrayal, but they also reminded me of the love and commitment I was capable of. Emily, on the other hand, was struggling. I heard through mutual friends that she was living in a small apartment, working a low-paying job, and facing the consequences of her actions. She had reached out a few times, asking to see the kids, but I was firm in my resolve. I needed to protect them from further hurt. Any contact with her was limited and supervised. One day, Emily requested a meeting. Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing that closure was necessary for both of us. We met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe away from prying eyes. She looked different, tired, worn out. The confident woman I once knew was now a shadow of herself. Thank you for meeting me, Tom, she began, her voice trembling. I nodded, remaining silent. She took a deep breath and continued. I know I've caused you and the kids so much pain. I've lost everything because of my actions, and I don't expect forgiveness. But I need to ask if there's any chance I can be part of their lives, even in a small way. Her request was difficult to hear. Part of me wanted to deny her, to shield the kids from further heartbreak. But another part of me recognized the importance of their relationship with their mother. After a long pause, I spoke. Emily, you've made your choices, and we're all dealing with the consequences. The kids need stability and consistency right now. I can't promise anything, but we can start with supervised visits. They deserve to know their mother, even if it's only in small doses. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. Thank you, Tom. I'll do whatever it takes to make amends, to be there for them in any way I can. As I left the cafe, I felt a sense of resolution. Emily's role in our lives would be limited, but it was a step towards healing. I was determined to move forward, to build a future for my children and me that was free from the shadows of the past. In the following weeks, I focused on my career, seeking a promotion that would provide us with more financial stability. I also reconnected with old friends, allowing myself to rebuild my support network. Life began to settle into a new normal, one marked by hope and resilience. The kids were thriving, their grades improved, and they became more involved in extracurricular activities. I attended every soccer game, every school play, cheering them on with pride. Our bond grew stronger each day, a testament to the love and dedication that formed the foundation of our new life. As we approached the first anniversary of Emily's departure, I decided to celebrate our journey with a small trip. We spent a weekend in the mountains, hiking, roasting marshmallows, and enjoying the beauty of nature. It was a symbolic gesture, a way to mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Standing on the edge of a scenic overlook, with my children by my side, I felt a deep sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but we were facing it together, stronger and more united than ever before. Our past was a part of us, but it didn't define us. We were moving forward, one step at a time, embracing the promise of a brighter future. The passage of time began to heal some of the wounds, but trust was something that required deliberate effort and patience. For the sake of my children, I knew I had to navigate the complex relationship with Emily carefully. Our new routine of supervised visits was a step towards stability, but it also brought new challenges. Emily's first visit with the kids was set for a sunny Saturday afternoon at the local park. I arrived early with Sarah and Jack, making sure they were comfortable and prepared. They were both nervous, unsure of what to expect from their mother after months of limited contact. When Emily arrived, she looked hesitant but hopeful. She greeted the kids with a mixture of joy and trepidation, clearly unsure of how to bridge the gap that her actions had created. Sarah, always the more sensitive of the two, approached her cautiously, while Jack remained by my side, his eyes filled with uncertainty. The visit started awkwardly, with stilted conversation and forced smiles. I stayed nearby, giving them space but remaining within earshot. As the afternoon progressed, the tension began to ease. Emily engaged them with stories from her past, funny anecdotes about when they were younger. Slowly but surely their guarded demeanor started to soften. Watching this unfold was bittersweet. On one hand, I saw the woman I once loved reconnecting with our children. On the other, I was reminded of the betrayal that had shattered our family. But this wasn't about me, it was about providing the kids with a sense of stability and closure. Over the next few months, the supervised visits became a regular part of our lives. Emily was making a genuine effort to rebuild her relationship with Sarah and Jack, and it was starting to show. The kids began to look forward to their time with her, and the conversations they had were more natural and less strained. Despite these positive changes, I remained vigilant. I attended every visit, ensuring that Emily's interactions with the children were healthy and constructive. Trust was a fragile thing, and I wasn't willing to risk their well-being on the chance that she might falter again. During one visit, Emily asked if she could take the kids out for ice cream on her own. It was a simple request, but it felt like a monumental step. I hesitated, torn between my desire to protect my children and the recognition that they needed to see their mother as a capable and trustworthy figure in their lives. After a long pause, I agreed, but with conditions. You can take them, but only for an hour, and I want you to keep your phone on and stay in touch. Emily nodded, understanding the weight of my decision. She took Sarah and Jack by the hand, and I watched as they walked away, my heart heavy with a mix of fear and hope. That hour felt like an eternity. I stayed close to my phone, ready to jump into the car at the first sign of trouble. But when Emily called to say they were on their way back, I felt a small measure of relief. They returned with smiles and stories about their favorite flavors, and for the first time in a long while, I saw a glimpse of normalcy. As Emily continued to prove herself, I began to extend more trust, albeit cautiously. The kids noticed the change, and it helped them to heal. They were still wary, but the anger and confusion were starting to fade. Emily's consistent presence, combined with her genuine remorse, was making a difference. Meanwhile, I focused on my own healing. I started attending a support group for single parents, sharing my experiences and learning from others who had faced similar challenges. It was a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. Through the group, I met Laura, a kind and understanding woman who had her own story of loss and resilience. We became friends, supporting each other through the ups and downs of parenting and personal growth. Our conversations were a source of comfort, and slowly, I began to open up to the possibility of new relationships. The kids noticed the change in me as well. They saw that I was happier, more at ease. Our home was becoming a place of warmth and laughter again, and it was reflected in their behavior. Their grades improved, and they became more engaged in their activities. The cloud that had hung over us for so long was starting to lift. One evening, after a particularly good day, Sarah approached me while I was preparing dinner. "Dad, do you think we'll ever be a real family again?" she asked, her eyes full of hope. I knelt down to her level, choosing my words carefully. "We are a real family, Sarah. It's just a different kind of family now. But that doesn't make it any less real or special. We have each other, and that's what matters most." She hugged me tightly, and in that moment I knew we were on the right path. Rebuilding trust was a slow and often painful process, but it was worth it. For my children, for myself, and even for Emily, who was striving to make amends. As the days turned into weeks, our new life continued to take shape. There were setbacks and challenges, but there was also progress and hope. We were learning to trust again, to forgive, and to move forward. And in doing so, we were creating a new future, one built on resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As the months went by, the rhythm of our new life settled into a comforting pattern. Emily's visits became more frequent, and slowly the trust between her and the kids began to rebuild. However, the past lingered like a shadow, and I knew that for us to truly move forward, we needed to confront it directly. It was during one of our support group meetings that Laura suggested a family therapy session. "It helped my kids and me a lot," she said, her eyes reflecting a mix of empathy and encouragement. Sometimes having a neutral space to talk about the past can be incredibly healing. I mulled over her suggestion for days. The idea of sitting down with Emily and the kids, reliving the pain of her betrayal, was daunting. But I also recognized the potential for healing that such a session could offer. After discussing it with my lawyer and getting his cautious approval, I approached Emily with the idea. She agreed immediately, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "I want to do whatever it takes to make things right," she said, and for the first time, I believed her. We scheduled the session for a Saturday afternoon at a local therapist's office. The kids were nervous but curious. I explained to them that this was an opportunity for all of us to talk openly and honestly, to ask questions and share our feelings in a safe space. When the day arrived, we all met at the therapist's office. Dr. Morgan, a gentle yet firm woman in her 50s, welcomed us with a warm smile. She led us into a cozy room filled with soft chairs and calming decor. After some initial introductions, she invited us to start sharing our thoughts and feelings. I went first, explaining my reasons for wanting this session. "We've all been through a lot," I began, my voice steady. "I think it's important for us to understand each other's perspectives and to start healing as a family." Dr. Morgan nodded and turned to Emily. "Emily, why don't you share your thoughts?" Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I know I've hurt you all deeply," she said, looking at each of us in turn. "I made terrible choices, and I'm truly sorry. I hope that we can use this time to start rebuilding our relationships." The kids listened quietly, their expressions a mix of curiosity and caution. Sarah, always the more vocal of the two, was the first to speak. "Why did you do it, Mom?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly. "Why did you lie to us?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I wish I had a good answer for you, Sarah," she said softly. "I got caught up in wanting more money, more excitement. I didn't think about how it would affect you or your dad. I was selfish, and I'm so sorry." Jack, who had been silent, finally spoke up. "Did you ever think about us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Or was it just about the money?" Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I thought about you all the time, Jack. But I was wrong in thinking that what I was doing was somehow for our benefit. I see now that it was never about you. It was about me." The room fell silent as we absorbed her words. Dr. Morgan guided us through the conversation, helping us express our feelings and ask the questions that had been buried deep within us. We talked about the betrayal, the lies, and the impact it had on each of us. For the first time, Emily shared her side of the story in detail. She talked about how she had felt trapped in her role as a wife and mother. How the attention and gifts from other men had made her feel valued in a way she hadn't felt in years. It was painful to hear, but it also provided a deeper understanding of her actions. I shared my own struggles, the feelings of inadequacy, the anger, and the fear of being unable to protect my children. As I spoke, I saw the pain in Emily's eyes, mirroring my own. It was a raw, honest conversation, one that had been a long time coming. The kids, too, opened up about their feelings. Sarah talked about her confusion and anger, while Jack spoke of his sense of betrayal and loss. Through tears and difficult words, we began to unravel the complex web of emotions that had entangled us. By the end of the session, we were emotionally drained but also relieved. We had taken the first steps toward confronting our past, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. Dr. Morgan recommended that we continue with family therapy, suggesting that it would help us maintain open communication and continue the healing process. As we left the therapist's office, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. This was just the beginning, but it was a necessary step. The past was a part of us, but it didn't have to define our future. We were learning to face it together, to understand and forgive, and to move forward as a family. In the days that followed, I noticed subtle changes in our interactions. The kids seemed lighter, less burdened by unspoken questions and unresolved emotions. Emily was more present, making a genuine effort to connect with Sarah and Jack in meaningful ways. And I found myself letting go of some of the anger and bitterness that had consumed me for so long. We continued with our therapy sessions, each one bringing new insights and deeper understanding. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of pain and frustration, but we were committed to the process. Through it all, we were growing stronger, learning to trust again, and forging a new path forward. Facing the past was never going to be easy, but it was a journey we needed to take. Together, we were rebuilding our family, one step at a time, with honesty, love, and a renewed sense of hope. After months of therapy and gradual rebuilding, our family started to find a new equilibrium. Trust, though still fragile, was growing. Emily's consistent efforts to repair her relationship with the children began to bear fruit. But there was still an unspoken distance between us that needed addressing. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, I received a text from Emily. "Can we talk?" Just the two of us. I hesitated, wondering what more there was to say. But I agreed, realizing that we needed to clear the air between us for the sake of our co-parenting relationship. We met at a small coffee shop downtown. The setting was neutral, a safe space for an honest conversation. Emily looked nervous as she sat down, clutching her cup of coffee. I waited, giving her the time to gather her thoughts. "Tom," she began, her voice steady but tinged with emotion, "I know we've talked about a lot during therapy, but there are things I need to say to you directly. Without the kids around, without a mediator. Just us." I nodded, signaling for her to continue. "I want to thank you," she said, her eyes meeting mine, "for giving me a chance to rebuild my relationship with Sarah and Jack. I know I don't deserve it after everything I've done, but I also need to apologize to you, specifically. I hurt you deeply, and I can't imagine the pain you went through." Hearing her acknowledgement brought a rush of emotions. "Emily, it wasn't just about the infidelity. It was the betrayal, the lies, the fact that I thought we were a team, and you went behind my back for years. You made me question everything about our marriage, about myself." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know, and I'm truly sorry for that. I was selfish and short-sighted. But I've learned a lot in these past months, about myself and about what I truly value. I want to be a better person, for the kids and for myself. And I hope in time, we can find a way to coexist peacefully." Her sincerity was palpable. It was the first time I felt she truly understood the gravity of her actions and their impact on me. "Emily, I've seen the changes you've made and I appreciate them. This isn't just about forgiveness, it's about moving forward in a way that's healthy for all of us. I want what's best for the kids, and that means finding a way to work together." She smiled faintly, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Thank you, Tom. I know it will take time, but I'm committed to making this work." We sat in silence for a few moments, sipping our coffee and reflecting on our journey. It wasn't about rekindling our relationship, but about establishing a new bond based on mutual respect and a shared commitment to our children's well-being. In the weeks that followed, this new bond began to take shape. We started communicating more openly and honestly, coordinating schedules and discussing the kids' needs without the underlying tension that had previously marred our interactions. It was a gradual process, but each step brought us closer to a functional parenting relationship. One Saturday, Emily suggested we take the kids out for a day trip to the zoo. It was a significant gesture, indicating her willingness to integrate our new dynamic into everyday life. Sarah and Jack were thrilled at the idea of spending the day with both their parents. At the zoo, we walked together, laughing at the antics of the animals and enjoying the warm sunny day. The kids ran ahead, excitedly pointing out their favorite exhibits, while Emily and I followed, sharing stories and catching up on each other's lives. It felt almost normal, a glimpse of what could be. As we sat down for lunch, Emily pulled out a scrapbook she had been working on. "I've been putting this together for the kids," she said, handing it to me. It was filled with photos, mementos, and little notes. Memories of happier times, as well as new ones we were creating. Sarah and Jack crowded around, eager to see. Their faces lit up as they flipped through the pages, reminiscing and laughing. It was a beautiful reminder that despite everything, we were still a family, capable of creating new memories together. That evening, as I tucked the kids into bed, Sarah looked up at me and said, "Dad, today was one of the best days ever. Do you think we can do more things like this?" I smiled, my heart swelling with love for my children. "Absolutely, sweetheart. We're going to do our best to keep making happy memories together." Over time, our family continued to heal and grow. Emily and I attended the kids' school events, sports games, and other activities together, presenting a united front. We celebrated birthdays and holidays as a family, finding joy in the moments we shared. Our new bond wasn't perfect, and there were still challenges and moments of tension. But the foundation of mutual respect and a shared commitment to our children's happiness made all the difference. We were learning to navigate this new chapter of our lives, one step at a time. In the end, it wasn't about erasing the past, but about building a future where love, trust, and understanding could flourish. Emily and I found a way to coexist peacefully, supporting each other in our roles as parents. And through it all, our children thrived, surrounded by the love and stability they deserved. As I looked at my family, I realized that we had come a long way from the darkness of betrayal. We had faced our past, rebuilt trust, and forged a new bond that held us together. It was a testament to our resilience and the enduring strength of family. Just as life was beginning to stabilize and we were finding a new normal, a surprising and unsettling discovery threatened to undo all the progress we had made. It started innocently enough, a routine financial review of our household expenses and a deeper look into some old financial records. One evening, while the kids were at a sleepover at their friend's house, I sat down at my desk with a stack of old bank statements and bills. My intent was to close out any remaining joint accounts and ensure that our finances were completely separated. As I sifted through the documents, something caught my eye. There were several large, unexplained withdrawals from our joint account, dating back to before Emily and I had separated. The amounts were substantial, and the transactions frequent enough to raise alarm. My heart sank as I realized that these withdrawals didn't match any of our known expenses. Determined to uncover the truth, I spent hours combing through the statements, cross-referencing them with our records. The more I dug, the more apparent it became that Emily had been siphoning money for a long time, long before her affair came to light. My mind raced with questions and emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion. Why would she take such risks, and where had all that money gone? The next morning, I confronted Emily about the transactions. We met at a local park, a neutral and public space where we often exchanged the kids. As they played nearby, I handed her a printout of the bank statements, pointing to the suspicious withdrawals. "Emily, can you explain these?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm for the kids' sake. She glanced at the papers, her face paling as she realized what I had found. "Tom, I didn't want you to find out like this," she stammered. "Find out what, Emily?" I pressed, my patience waning. "That you've been stealing money from our family for years?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "It's not what you think. Yes, I took the money, but it wasn't for me. It was for my brother, Jason. He was in trouble, deep trouble, and he needed help." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. Jason had always been a bit of a black sheep, but I never imagined he was involved in something so serious. "What kind of trouble, Emily? And why didn't you come to me?" She took a deep breath, wiping her eyes. "Jason got mixed up with some very dangerous people. He owed them a lot of money, and they were threatening him. I couldn't just let him get hurt, Tom. I didn't know what else to do." Her explanation left me reeling. I knew Jason had a troubled past, but this was beyond anything I had imagined. "So you took our money without telling me to bail him out? Do you have any idea what you've done? How this affects our family?" "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "I was desperate and scared. I thought I could handle it on my own, and I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Tom." The anger and betrayal I felt were overwhelming, but beneath it was a twinge of sympathy. Emily had been trying to protect her brother, albeit in a misguided and dishonest way. But her actions had far-reaching consequences, ones that we now had to deal with together. "Emily, we need to figure this out," I said, my tone softening slightly. "Not just for us, but for the kids. They don't need any more upheaval in their lives." She nodded, grateful for my willingness to work through this with her. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right, Tom, I promise." In the following days we met with financial advisors and legal counsel to assess the full extent of the damage and develop a plan to address it. Emily was cooperative, providing all the information she had about Jason's situation and the money she had funneled to him. We discovered that Jason's debt was substantial, and the people he owed were indeed dangerous. The situation was precarious, but with the help of our advisors, we began to formulate a strategy to protect our assets and address the debt. Meanwhile, Emily reached out to Jason, insisting that he come clean about his situation and seek professional help. It was a difficult conversation, but one that was necessary for any chance of resolution. Throughout this process, the kids sensed the tension but were thankfully unaware of the specifics. We continued to present a united front, ensuring that their lives remained as stable as possible amidst the turmoil. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of meetings and phone calls, Emily and I sat down to talk. "Tom," she said, her voice weary, "I know I've asked a lot of you, and I don't deserve your help or forgiveness. But I'm grateful. More than you know." I looked at her, seeing the genuine remorse and determination in her eyes. Emily, we have a lot to work through, but I appreciate your honesty. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about our kids and their future. We have to find a way to move forward. As we continued to navigate the complex web of financial and legal issues, a surprising thing happened. The process of working together on this crisis began to rebuild a different kind of trust between us. It wasn't the trust of a romantic relationship, but rather the trust of two people united in a common cause, protecting and providing for their children. We still had a long way to go, and the road ahead was uncertain. But for the first time I felt a glimmer of hope that we could face these challenges together and come out stronger on the other side. Uncovering hidden secrets had been a painful and unexpected twist in our journey, but it also brought to light the resilience and determination within us. We were learning to face adversity head-on with honesty and courage, and in doing so, we were building a new foundation for our family's future. As the weeks passed and we continued to untangle the financial mess left by Jason's debts, we found ourselves leaning on an unlikely source of support. Laura. Our friendship had grown steadily over the months, and she had been a constant source of advice and encouragement. However, I hadn't anticipated the pivotal role she would play in navigating this crisis. One evening, after another exhausting day of meetings and phone calls, I found myself at Laura's house sharing a cup of coffee and updating her on the situation. It feels like every time we make progress, another complication arises, I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know how much more we can handle. Laura listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. Tom, I can't pretend to know exactly what you're going through, but I want to help. You've been there for me through my tough times, and now it's my turn to support you. Her words were a balm to my weary spirit. Thank you, Laura. Your support means more than you know. She leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. I have a friend, Mark, who's a financial consultant specializing in cases like yours. He's helped a lot of families recover from severe financial crises. I can introduce you to him if you think it might help. The offer was unexpected, but I knew we needed all the help we could get. That sounds like a great idea. We could use some expert advice right now. A few days later, Emily and I met with Mark. He was a tall, confident man with a reassuring demeanor. After reviewing our situation, he outlined a plan to consolidate our debts, negotiate with creditors, and establish a more sustainable financial strategy. His expertise and calm approach provided a much-needed sense of direction. Emily, Tom, Mark said, looking at us seriously, this won't be an easy process, but if you follow the plan and stay committed, you can get through this. It's going to require discipline and sacrifice, but it's doable. Emily and I exchanged a glance, both of us feeling a renewed sense of hope. We're ready to do whatever it takes, I said firmly. Mark's guidance proved invaluable. He helped us negotiate with Jason's creditors, some of whom were surprisingly willing to accept reduced settlements in exchange for immediate payments. It was a delicate balancing act, but slowly we began to see progress. Throughout this challenging period, Laura's support remained unwavering. She checked in regularly, offering encouragement and practical advice. Her presence became a cornerstone of my resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there were people who cared and were willing to help. One afternoon, as Emily and I were going over the latest financial reports, she looked up at me, her expression a mixture of gratitude and regret. Tom, I don't know how we would have managed this without your friends. Laura's been incredible, and Mark's expertise has been a lifeline. I nodded, feeling a deep sense of appreciation for the unexpected allies who had come into our lives. We're lucky to have them, and we're lucky to have you stepping up and taking responsibility. It's made a difference. Emily smiled faintly, a shadow of her old self beginning to reemerge. I'm trying, Tom, I really am, for the kids, and for all of us. As our financial situation slowly stabilized, we started to focus on rebuilding other aspects of our lives. Emily took on a second job to help pay down the remaining debts, while I adjusted our household budget to reflect our new reality. It was tough, but the progress we made was encouraging. The kids, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware of the details of our financial struggles. We made a conscious effort to keep their lives as normal as possible, ensuring they continued to thrive at school and in their extracurricular activities. Sarah's grades improved, and Jack's enthusiasm for soccer returned, signs that they were healing too. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Laura invited me over for dinner. As we sat on her porch watching the sunset, she turned to me with a serious expression. "Tom, I've been thinking a lot about everything you've been through. You've shown incredible strength and resilience, but I want you to know it's okay to lean on others too. You don't have to carry all this weight alone." Her words touched me deeply. "Thank you, Laura. You've been an amazing friend. I don't know how I'd have managed without you." She smiled softly. "We all need help sometimes. I'm just glad I could be there for you." As the days turned into weeks, our new support network proved to be invaluable. Emily and I worked closely with Mark to stay on track with our financial recovery plan, and Laura's friendship continued to be a source of strength and comfort. We began to see light at the end of the tunnel, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope for the future. In the midst of all this, something unexpected happened. Emily and Laura started to form a tentative friendship. Initially, their interactions were limited to polite exchanges during drop-offs and pick-ups, but gradually, they began to talk more openly. Laura's kindness and understanding seemed to resonate with Emily, who was in desperate need of non-judgmental support. One Saturday, Laura invited both Emily and me to a barbecue at her place. It was a casual gathering with a few of her friends, a chance to relax and enjoy some normalcy. As we sat in the backyard, surrounded by laughter and the smell of grilled food, I watched Emily and Laura engage in a genuine conversation. It was a heartwarming sight, and it filled me with a sense of gratitude for the unexpected allies who had come into our lives. By the end of the evening, as we prepared to leave, Emily turned to Laura with a sincere smile. "Thank you, Laura, for everything. You've been more of a friend to me than I ever expected." Laura hugged her gently. "We're all in this together, Emily. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know." Driving home that night, I reflected on the journey we had taken. From betrayal and financial ruin to rebuilding trust and finding new allies, our path had been anything but smooth. But through it all, we had discovered the strength of our resilience and the power of community. Unexpected allies had come to our aid, offering support, expertise, and friendship when we needed it most. And as we moved forward, I knew that we were not alone. Together we would face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident in the knowledge that we could overcome anything as long as we had each other. As months passed since the tumultuous discovery of Jason's debts and the subsequent financial crisis, our family began to emerge from the shadows of betrayal and turmoil. The support of unexpected allies like Laura and Mark had been instrumental in stabilizing our finances and restoring a sense of normalcy to our lives. Emily and I continued to co-parent effectively, focusing on the well-being of Sarah and Jack above all else. Our communication had improved significantly, and while trust remained fragile, there was a newfound respect and understanding between us. One sunny Saturday morning, as we gathered for breakfast in our kitchen, Sarah looked up from her cereal with a mischievous grin. "Hey Mom, Dad, can we go to the beach today? It's supposed to be warm." Emily and I exchanged a glance, both of us surprised by Sarah's suggestion. "That sounds like a great idea," Emily said, smiling warmly at our daughter. "What do you think, Tom?" I nodded, feeling a surge of optimism. "Sure, let's pack up and head out. It'll be good to spend some time together." The beach day turned out to be exactly what we all needed, a day of laughter, sunshine, and simple joys. Sarah and Jack splashed in the waves, building sandcastles and collecting seashells. Emily and I sat on the shore, watching them with a mixture of pride and relief. As the sun began to set, we gathered around a bonfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. It felt like a scene from a happy family movie, a stark contrast to the darkness we had faced not so long ago. Later that evening, as we drove home with sleepy but content children in the back seat, Emily reached over and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "For being willing to embrace moments like these with me." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "It was a good day," I admitted, "and we needed it." Over the following weeks and months, our family continued to heal and grow. We celebrated milestones together: Sarah's graduation from middle school, Jack's first place in a local soccer tournament. Each achievement was a reminder of our resilience and the strength of our bond. Emily and I attended regular therapy sessions, not because our relationship was being repaired, but to ensure that we maintained open communication and addressed any lingering issues as company parents. Dr. Morgan had become a trusted advisor, guiding us through the complexities of rebuilding trust and navigating challenges. One evening, after a particularly productive therapy session, Emily and I lingered outside the office building, savoring the cool evening breeze. "I never thought we'd come this far," Emily admitted quietly, her eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and determination. "But I'm grateful for the chance to make things right, Tom." I nodded, feeling a sense of closure settle over me. "Me too, Emily. We've been through a lot, but we're finding our way." As time went on, Emily's relationship with Laura continued to blossom into a genuine friendship. They supported each other through their respective challenges, sharing advice and laughter over coffee dates and occasional dinners. It was a testament to the healing power of forgiveness and the importance of having a strong support network. One afternoon, as I sat in my home office reviewing bills, Emily entered with a small package in her hands. "Tom, this arrived for you today," she said, holding it out to me with a curious smile. I took the package and opened it carefully. Inside was a framed photograph, a candid shot of our family at the beach, taken during that impromptu trip. Sarah and Jack were laughing, their faces glowing with happiness. Emily and I stood behind them, arms around each other's waists, smiling at the camera. "It's beautiful," I murmured, touched by the gesture. Emily nodded. "I thought we could hang it up in the living room, a reminder of happier times." I agreed wholeheartedly, and together we found a place for the photograph where we could see it every day. A symbol of our journey, from betrayal and crisis to healing and hope. In the months and years that followed, our family continued to move forward, embracing new experiences and opportunities. Sarah and Jack thrived in high school, excelling academically and socially. Emily pursued her career with renewed determination, finding fulfillment in her work and contributing to our financial recovery. As for me, I found solace in my role as a father and a provider. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer defined us. Instead, they served as a reminder of our strength and resilience. Occasionally, we would look back on those dark days and marvel at how far we had come. Our journey had been marked by pain and struggle, but also by growth and redemption. We had learned valuable lessons about forgiveness, trust, and the power of love to overcome even the most difficult challenges. And as we looked ahead to the future, I knew that no matter what obstacles we might face, we would face them together, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The end of one chapter had led to the beginning of another, filled with hope, promise, and the enduring strength of family. As the years passed, our family continued to thrive, strengthened by the challenges we had overcome together. Sarah had graduated from college with honors, pursuing her passion for environmental science. Jack had followed his love for sports, becoming a dedicated coach and mentor to young athletes in our community. Emily had excelled in her career, earning recognition for her contributions to her field. Our home had become a sanctuary of peace and happiness. A far cry from the turmoil that had once threatened to tear us apart. The scars of betrayal had faded, replaced by a deep-seated understanding and forgiveness that had grown stronger with time. One sunny afternoon, Emily and I sat on our porch swing, sipping lemonade and enjoying a rare moment of quiet. The sounds of laughter drifted from the backyard, where Sarah and Jack were playing with their own children, our grandchildren. "I never imagined we'd be here, Tom," Emily said softly, her gaze lingering on our children. "After everything we went through, I didn't dare to hope for this kind of happiness." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We've come a long way," I agreed. "But we made it through, together." Emily smiled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Thank you for never giving up on us," she whispered. Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Sarah and Jack, their children bounding ahead of them. The backyard filled with joyful chaos as we welcomed our grandchildren into our arms. It was a moment of pure bliss, a testament to the enduring strength of family bonds. That evening we gathered around the dinner table, a tradition that had become sacred to us over the years. As we passed dishes of food and shared stories, I looked around at the faces of my loved ones and felt a profound sense of gratitude. "Mom, Dad," Sarah said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking about something. With everything we've been through, I want to make sure we never lose sight of what's important: family, love, forgiveness. Her words echoed the sentiments that had guided us through our darkest days. You're right, sweetheart, Emily replied, her voice steady with emotion. Those are the things that matter most. Jack nodded, his expression thoughtful. We've been given a second chance thanks to both of you. I want to make the most of it. As our grandchildren giggled and played under the watchful eyes of their parents, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this moment. We had faced betrayal, financial ruin, and heartache. But through it all, we had emerged stronger and more resilient. Our story was a testament to the power of forgiveness, the strength of love, and the importance of never giving up hope. And as we looked ahead to the future, I knew that our family would continue to thrive, bound together by the lessons we had learned and the unwavering support we had shown each other. As the sun set on another beautiful day, I leaned over and kissed Emily's cheek. Here's to new beginnings, I murmured. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with happiness. To new beginnings. And as we sat together, surrounded by the warmth and love of our family, I knew that our journey was far from over. Together we would continue to write the chapters of our lives, embracing each new day with hope, courage, and gratitude. As the years rolled by, our family's journey continued to unfold with a sense of peace and fulfillment that once seemed unimaginable. Sarah and Jack had settled into their own lives, each thriving in their chosen paths. Sarah had become a respected environmental scientist, working on projects aimed at preserving natural habitats and educating communities about sustainable practices. Jack had flourished as a soccer coach, mentoring young athletes and instilling in them not just skills on the field but also values of teamwork and perseverance. Emily and I had found a renewed sense of purpose in supporting our children and cherishing the time we spent together as a family. Our home had become a gathering place for holidays, birthdays, and simple Sunday dinners, a testament to the bonds that had grown stronger through adversity. One crisp autumn afternoon, Emily and I took a leisurely stroll through the neighborhood park. The leaves had turned vibrant shades of red and gold, crunching underfoot as we walked hand in hand. I can hardly believe how far we've come, Emily remarked, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Remember when everything felt so uncertain? I squeezed her hand affectionately. It feels like a lifetime ago, I admitted. But we made it through, stronger than ever. Emily nodded, a soft smile playing on her lips. I'm grateful for every moment we've had since then. Even the tough ones. They've made us who we are. We paused by a bench overlooking a tranquil pond, watching ducks glide across the water. It was moments like these that reminded us of the simple joys of life and the importance of gratitude. I've been thinking, Emily began hesitantly, about how we could give back. After all we've been through, I want to do something meaningful. Her words struck a chord within me. That's a wonderful idea, I agreed wholeheartedly. We've been blessed in so many ways, it's time to pay it forward. Over the following weeks, Emily and I discussed various ways we could make a positive impact in our community. Inspired by Sarah's work in environmental conservation, we volunteered at local cleanup events and supported initiatives to promote recycling and sustainability. Jack's passion for coaching sparked an idea, and we started a youth sports program aimed at providing underprivileged children with access to sports equipment and coaching. It was a small start, but the smiles on the kids' faces as they kicked their first soccer ball filled us with a sense of fulfillment. As our involvement in the community grew, so did our sense of purpose. We became regular volunteers at the local food bank, helping to distribute meals to families in need. Emily also joined a mentoring program for young mothers, offering guidance and support to navigate the challenges of parenthood. One evening, as we gathered around the dinner table with Sarah, Jack, and their families, I looked around at the faces of my loved ones with a heart full of gratitude. I'm so proud of each of you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You've grown into amazing adults and I couldn't ask for more. Sarah smiled warmly, her eyes shining with pride. We owe it all to you and Mom, she replied. You showed us what it means to persevere and never lose sight of what's important. Jack nodded in agreement, raising his glass in a toast. To Mom and Dad, for always leading by example and teaching us the true meaning of family. The sentiment echoed through the room, a reminder of the journey we had taken together and the strength we had found in each other. Our family had faced challenges that had tested our resolve and shaken our foundations, but through it all, we had emerged united and stronger than ever. As we cleared the table and settled into comfortable conversation, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. Our story was one of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. And as we looked ahead to the future, I knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, we would face them together, with gratitude in our hearts for the blessings we had been given. The years had taught us many lessons, but perhaps the greatest was this, that even in the face of adversity there is always hope. And with love and determination, anything is possible. As the years continued to pass, our family found itself in a new phase of life, one filled with reflection, legacy, and passing on the wisdom gained through our journey. Sarah and Jack had become pillars of their communities, embodying the values of resilience, compassion, and dedication instilled in them during their upbringing. Sarah had risen through the ranks in her field of environmental science, earning accolades for her innovative projects and commitment to sustainability. She had become a sought-after speaker at conferences, inspiring others with her passion for protecting the planet. Jack's coaching career had flourished beyond the local level, and he now mentored aspiring coaches across the region. His teams had won championships, but more importantly, he had earned a reputation for nurturing young athletes not just as players but as individuals with the potential to make a positive impact in their communities. Emily and I had embraced retirement with a sense of fulfillment, spending our days enjoying hobbies we had put on hold during the tumultuous years of our past. Our home had become a gathering place not just for family but also for friends and neighbors who sought our advice and wisdom. One crisp autumn afternoon, Sarah and Jack joined us for a leisurely lunch in our backyard. The leaves had started to turn shades of gold and crimson, creating a picturesque backdrop for our reunion. "Mom, Dad," Sarah began, her voice tinged with a mixture of nostalgia and gratitude, "I've been reflecting on everything you've taught us over the years. About resilience, forgiveness, and never giving up." Jack nodded in agreement, his expression earnest. "You showed us what it means to face challenges head-on and come out stronger on the other side. I can't thank you enough for that." Emily smiled warmly, her eyes glistening with pride. "You both have grown into remarkable adults," she replied, her voice steady with emotion. "It's been our greatest privilege to watch you flourish." As we reminisced about our journey together, the conversation turned to our grandchildren, Sarah's 2 daughters and Jack's son, who were growing up surrounded by love and guidance. They played in the yard, their laughter filling the air, a testament to the legacy of strength and resilience that had been passed down through generations. "I hope we can give them the same foundation you gave us," Sarah said softly, her gaze resting on her daughters with affection. "You already are," I assured her, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "They're lucky to have you and Jack as parents." In the weeks that followed, Emily and I found ourselves reflecting on the lessons we had learned, and the wisdom we wanted to impart to future generations. We started compiling our memories and experiences into a family memoir, a testament to the challenges we had faced and the strength we had found in each other. As we shared our story with Sarah and Jack, they encouraged us to publish it, a legacy for our grandchildren and a source of inspiration for others facing their own trials. With their support, we worked tirelessly to bring our memoir to life, weaving together moments of joy, sorrow, and ultimately triumph. One evening, surrounded by our loved ones, we held a small gathering to celebrate the publication of our memoir. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered in our living room, flipping through the pages and sharing stories of their own struggles and triumphs. Sarah stood beside me, her hand resting on my shoulder. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she whispered, her eyes shining with pride, "for sharing your story with the world." Jack nodded in agreement, his voice filled with admiration. "You've taught us all so much about resilience and the power of love." As I looked around at the faces of those gathered, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Our journey had been marked by challenges that had tested our resolve and shaken our foundations, but through it all we had emerged stronger and more united. Our family memoir became a source of inspiration for others, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love and forgiveness. And as we looked ahead to the future, I knew that our legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of those we had touched along the way. As the evening drew to a close, Emily and I sat on our porch swing, watching the stars twinkle overhead. "We've come a long way," I murmured, squeezing her hand affectionately. Emily smiled, her eyes reflecting the warmth of our shared journey. "Yes, we have," she replied softly. "And I wouldn't change a thing." And as we sat together, surrounded by the love and laughter of our family, I knew that our story was far from over. We had faced adversity with courage, embraced forgiveness with grace, and built a legacy of resilience that would endure for generations to come. As our family continued to grow and evolve, each passing year brought new milestones and cherished moments that filled our hearts with joy and gratitude. Sarah, now a seasoned environmental scientist, had embarked on a groundbreaking project to create urban green spaces in underserved communities. Her dedication to sustainability and environmental stewardship had earned her national recognition, but it was the impact she made on people's lives that truly defined her success. Jack's coaching career had expanded beyond the local level, and he had become known not only for his team's victories on the field, but also for his mentorship off it. He dedicated his time to coaching clinics and youth programs, instilling in young athletes the values of sportsmanship, teamwork, and perseverance that had shaped his own life. Emily and I had found a new rhythm in retirement, relishing in the simple pleasures of life together. We traveled to places we had always dreamed of visiting, explored new hobbies, and volunteered in our community. Our home had become a haven not just for our family but also for friends and neighbors who sought comfort and companionship. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Emily and I sat on our porch swing enjoying a cup of tea, Sarah and Jack surprised us with a visit. They brought along their families, Sarah's 2 daughters and Jack's son, filling our home with laughter and the warmth of familial love. "Mom, Dad," Sarah began, her eyes shimmering with affection, "I've been thinking about how much you've taught us about resilience and compassion. Your strength has shaped who we are today." Jack nodded in agreement, his smile mirroring his sister's sentiment. "You've shown us what it means to face challenges with grace, and to never lose sight of what's important." Emily and I exchanged a glance, our hearts overflowing with pride and love for our children. "You've made us proud beyond words," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "Seeing the remarkable adults you've become is our greatest joy." As we reminisced about our journey together, the conversation turned to the importance of cherishing every moment and making the most of life's opportunities. Sarah shared stories of her latest project, which aimed to create a community garden in a local park, while Jack recounted the joy of coaching his son's soccer team to their first championship. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I continued to reflect on the legacy we hoped to leave behind. We decided to establish a scholarship fund in our grandchildren's names, supporting students pursuing careers in environmental science and sports coaching. It was our way of passing on the values that had guided us through life's challenges and celebrating the passions that had shaped our children's lives. One evening, surrounded by our loved ones, we gathered in our living room to announce the creation of the scholarship fund. Sarah, Jack, and their families listened attentively, their eyes shining with pride and gratitude. Together, we discussed the criteria for the scholarship and shared stories of the impact we hoped it would have on future generations. "I can't think of a better way to honor your legacy, Mom and Dad," Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. "This scholarship will inspire others to follow their dreams and make a positive impact in their communities." Jack nodded in agreement, his expression thoughtful. "It's a testament to the values you've instilled in us. The importance of education, perseverance, and giving back." As we celebrated the launch of the scholarship fund, surrounded by love and laughter, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Our family had faced challenges that had tested our resolve and strengthened our bonds, but through it all, we had remained united in our commitment to making a difference in the world. As Emily and I sat together that night, reflecting on the day's events, I squeezed her hand affectionately. "We've come a long way," I murmured, my heart overflowing with gratitude. Emily smiled, her eyes twinkling with happiness. "Yes, we have," she replied softly, "and I wouldn't change a single moment." And as we sat together, surrounded by the love and laughter of our family, I knew that our journey was far from over. Together we would continue to cherish every moment, celebrate every achievement, and embrace every opportunity to make a positive impact in the world. This chapter reflects on the family's achievements and their commitment to leaving a positive legacy while cherishing the moments they have together. As the years passed, our family continued to cherish the bonds that had grown stronger through trials and triumphs. Sarah's career in environmental science soared to new heights, with her projects expanding to international conservation efforts. She became a respected advocate for sustainable development, speaking at global conferences and collaborating with organizations dedicated to preserving biodiversity. Jack's coaching career evolved as well, with him taking on a leadership role in a national youth sports initiative. His passion for mentoring young athletes had inspired a new generation of coaches, and he found fulfillment in empowering youth to achieve their dreams both on and off the field. Emily and I embraced our roles as grandparents with joy and enthusiasm, watching our grandchildren grow and flourish in their own unique ways. We continued to support community initiatives and volunteer work, finding fulfillment in giving back to the neighborhoods that had become our extended family. One summer evening, as Emily and I sat on our porch swing watching the sunset, Sarah and Jack surprised us with a visit. They brought along their families, Sarah's daughters and Jack's son, who ran ahead to greet us with hugs and laughter. "Mom, Dad," Sarah began, her voice filled with affection, "I've been thinking about how much we owe to your resilience and determination. Your strength has shaped who we are today." Jack nodded in agreement, his smile reflecting the pride he felt. "You showed us what it means to face challenges with grace and to never give up on our dreams." Emily and I exchanged a glance, our hearts swelling with love for our children and grandchildren. "You've made us so proud," I said, my voice tinged with emotion. "Seeing the incredible adults you've become is the greatest gift we could ask for." As we reminisced about our journey together, the conversation turned to the future and the legacy we hope to leave behind. Sarah shared her plans to establish a foundation dedicated to environmental education, inspiring young people to become stewards of the planet. Jack talked about expanding his youth sports program to reach more communities, providing opportunities for underprivileged children to participate in organized sports. Emily and I listened with admiration and support, knowing that our children were carrying forward the values that had guided our family through challenges and triumphs. We shared stories of our own experiences and offered advice based on the lessons we had learned along the way. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I continued to reflect on our journey and the impact we hoped to make in our community. We decided to donate a portion of our savings to support Sarah's foundation and Jack's youth sports program, ensuring that future generations would benefit from the opportunities they had received. One crisp autumn afternoon, surrounded by our loved ones, we gathered in our backyard for a celebration of family and legacy. Sarah, Jack, and their families joined us around a table filled with laughter and reminiscence. Together we toasted to the past, the present, and the future, the bonds that had shaped us and the dreams that would carry us forward. "I can't think of a better way to honor your legacy, Mom and Dad," Sarah said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Your strength and wisdom have guided us every step of the way." Jack nodded in agreement, his eyes shining with determination. "We're committed to carrying forward the values you've taught us, to make a positive impact in the world and leave a lasting legacy." As we embraced each other in a heartfelt hug, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Our family had faced challenges that had tested our resolve and strengthened our bonds, but through it all, we had remained united in our commitment to making a difference in the world. As Emily and I sat together that evening, watching our grandchildren play in the fading light, I squeezed her hand affectionately. "We've come a long way," I murmured, my heart overflowing with gratitude. Emily smiled, her eyes twinkling with happiness. "Yes, we have," she replied softly, "and I wouldn't change a single moment." And as we sat together, surrounded by the love and laughter of our family, I knew that our journey was far from over. Together we would continue to cherish every moment, celebrate every achievement, and embrace every opportunity to make a positive impact in the world.